So we're going to talk now about citations, and what really is important here is that you recognize or acknowledge uh, authors, research, academics, any kind of source material that you use as a basis for your article. Now, it may get a little bit confusing because you may read a lot and then you think, oh, this was my thought, not necessarily a thought that I can attribute to someone else. And so it's important that as you're doing your literature review, that you really think through the process so that you're not kind of mistakenly assuming that a thought is your own when in actuality that thought can be attributed to a specific scholar, a specific piece of literature, or specific piece of research. So it's really important that we refer to other authors, refer to other scholars, refer to our source material throughout any kind of academic paper or academic report. And my starting point for all of this sort of thing is Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is just a database, or it's a search engine that we can use to kind of seek out scholarly papers, reports, and things like that. It's not because just because it's in the Google Scholar doesn't mean that it's the most highly vetted, best research that's out there. It only means that Google considers it some sort of scholarly work. So please be kind of critical and think through what is it about this piece of information that I can consider reliable? What is it about the research methodology that scholar has kind of conducted that makes it robust enough for me to want to cite it? All right, so to just get started right in, I'm just going to put my name in here, and then you can kind of see how Google Scholar works. It's basically just like any Google search engine, but the key difference between Google Scholar and just any old search engine is this button right here. So this is the citation button, and what you end up with is not only the citation formats, which are fine, but these little links down here to BibTeX, Endnote, RefMan, and RefWorks. Now these are all bibliography managers. Now I use Endnote, so what I typically do is I'll click this link for Endnote. It'll download a little text file, a little import file that I can then use to take into Endnote. And so that's a really valuable tool. It's a really valuable opportunity because I don't have to then input everything into my bibliography manager manually. I can do it in a way that's more automated. Let's turn over to our bibliography manager. Now this is a really key piece of software that you can use to make your life easier. And now when you first start using it, it might not seem like it's making things easier, but trust me, once you've gotten into it and you've really set yourself up with a workflow, it can save you a massive amount of time, whether you're doing like a bachelor or master thesis, or whether you're doing full-blown PhD or just using it throughout your academic career. So basically this is the structure. It's just a database of all the references and citations that I have used over the years that I have found valuable and that I have referred to in different papers and some of my different work. The databases are more or less the same, although the user interfaces might differ slightly, but they all function in basically the same way in that it provides one single location for you to have access to all of the references that you're storing, that you're managing, I guess you could say. And so EndNote's just one of these software programs. There's RefWorks and Mendeley and Zotero, and there's just quite a few. Some of them are paid. EndNote, you have to pay for a license. Some of them are free. Some of them have online and offline versions that you can access, for example, through a web browser. Others are just standalone programs. So you really have to kind of see which one's going to meet your needs the best. I like EndNote just because I can modify the inputs and outputs of the database with a fair amount of fine tuning. So it really gives me a lot of control over how my references are outputted. Now, the file that I download from Google Scholar, all I have to do then is open it in EndNote and it will automatically populate all the fields in the reference. So rather than having to go in here and click new reference and then write everything in manually, the file that you can pull from Google Scholar does everything automatically. And what I've been doing in order to kind of make my life even more easy is going in and grabbing the PDF article of the citation so that I can make sure that now I have the reference and the article kind of wrapped up in one. And then I can open this in Adobe Acrobat and then I can make some comments or I can do some highlighting, and I have that reference in for the rest of my life. It's there and I have it and it's ready to go. So I don't have to worry about always trying to find, oh, where did I save that file? Where is that piece of literature located? Now I don't do that for everything, but certainly the articles that I read, in full, I make sure that I have that as a reference point whenever I'm going back and I'm referring to things. So this database then can just be a central location for all of the works that you're citing. So throughout your career, whether it's a paper in a class or whether it's a paper that you write 5 years later, you can still have access to those citations, and you can still kind of manage the ways in which you're referring to the literature. Now, it gets really, really cool once we start loading everything into Microsoft Word. Whenever I take the reference from here into Microsoft Word, from my bibliography manager to Microsoft Word, for Endnote, all I have to do is click this Insert Citation. And in whatever citation I have selected, it will insert the appropriate referencing style for that document. Here I am in my Word document, so if I want to write a really, if I'm just writing my paper and I'm writing a sentence, something like, let's do universal design is awesome. And now I want to cite this reference, say it's, Geonumus 2020, right? This is the way you would normally do it. You'd have to manually type everything in, and then when you go down to your reference list, you'd have to go Geonumus, G. Anthony 2020, and then the journal, and then everything else that goes into the reference list. So this is, I'm going to show you the easiest possible way here. So you flip back over to the Endnote library, you click the Insert Citation button, and it'll automatically put the reference in the appropriate citation format that you've selected and add it to the end of the document as part of your reference list. So then you have everything kind of laid out really, really, really effectively. Now, Endnote's also great because you can do different formatting styles. So say I wanted to do the same kind of sentence, but I wanted to do a different referencing style. So I'm just going to copy it here, and then I'm going to pull this out. And instead of saying it like that, I'm going to say, according to Bayan et al., universal design is awesome. So this is another way of citing things in the text of your document, but it's the wrong format because it should say Bayan et al. Parentheses 2020 if we're doing it in APA style. So then I just bounce over here and boom, now I have it correctly. Now if you'll notice, whenever I copied that sentence out, it didn't repeat the citation. So then if I want to get rid of this citation entirely, I can't just delete it here. I have to delete it here also. So once I've deleted all possible references to that citation, if I update it, then it will get rid of the citation. So if I update citations, boom, it's gone. Now, I want to show you one last really important thing here. So let's put the citation back in again. Now, let's say I'm in APA, but then I submit to a journal that doesn't use APA. I want to use a different citation format, so I just come up here and say they want to do it in Vancouver style, select it, boom, it automatically changes it. This is really, really handy because sometimes you'll submit to a journal, they might reject it. You might submit to a different journal after you've reviewed it and revised it, and the new journal, the second journal, might use a different citation format. Now your life is a whole lot easier because you don't have to go in and reformat everything. So I guess top 3 tips here are: number 1, cite all of your sources. Number 2, use a bibliography manager. Endnote's my preferred, but you can use whatever you want. Make sure you're importing your citations from something like Google Scholar or from the journal itself so you don't have to manually enter everything. And number 3, use a kind of add-on like I have here with Endnote and Microsoft Word or whatever word processing program you use, so that when you're citing your works in your document, it makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes to managing your reference list and it comes to formatting your references.